Welcome back to Unlock, Empower, Transform. I'm Che Blackmon, and today we're talking about how that childhood spent making your own after-school snacks and figuring out life without Google actually prepared you to be an exceptional leader. Gen X, we weren't neglected. We were leadership training, and it's time organizations recognize that our survival skills are actually superpowers in disguise. Let's be real about what Gen X actually experienced. We were the latchkey generation, home alone after school, figuring things out without YouTube tutorials or parents hovering over every decision. We learned to be self-sufficient because we had to be, and now everyone wonders why we're so good at working independently and solving problems without hand-holding. We came of age during economic uncertainty, the savings and loan crisis, Black Monday, the dot-com bubble, the 2008 financial crisis. We've been laid off, restructured, right-sized, and reorganized more times than we can count. Yet here we are, still standing, still leading, still adapting. This isn't trauma bonding. This is recognizing that what others call baggage, we should be calling leadership development. Every challenge we navigated without a safety net taught us something that can't be learned in any MBA program. In my Shield Resilience Strategy Guide, I talk about how self-awareness and healthy coping mechanisms build unshakable confidence. Well, Gen X has been practicing these skills since we were 8 years old, making dinner while our parents worked late. We didn't call it resilience training, we called it Tuesday. The organizations smart enough to recognize this are tapping into leaders who don't panic at the first sign of uncertainty. We've survived worse. We've rebuilt before. We know that sometimes the best strategy is to keep moving forward even when you can't see the whole path. Here's what those hours alone after school actually taught us. Skills that happen to be exactly what modern organizations need. First, we learned independent decision-making. There was no texting mom for every little choice. The microwave was smoking, figure it out. Locked yourself out, problem solve. This created leaders who don't need constant validation or approval. We assess, decide, and move forward. Second, we developed resourcefulness that borders on magical. We could entertain ourselves with a cardboard box. We fixed things with duct tape and determination. Now we're the leaders who can deliver projects with half the budget and twice the constraints because we've been MacGyvering solutions our whole lives. Third, we learn to read situations and adapt quickly. When you're home alone at 10 years old, you develop a sixth sense for potential problems. That translates into leaders who can spot organizational issues before they explode, who can read a room, who understand subtext and politics because we've been reading between the lines forever. Fourth, we built emotional resilience without even knowing it. We dealt with disappointment, fear, and uncertainty on our own. We learned that feelings don't have to dictate actions. Now we're the steady leaders during crisis, the ones who don't dissolve when things get tough. And perhaps most importantly, we learned that being alone doesn't mean being lonely, and being independent doesn't mean being isolated. We built communities by choice, not default. That's why Gen X leaders often build the strongest, most authentic teams. We know the value of chosen connection. In Appendix A of High Value Leadership, I include assessment tools that help leaders identify their strengths. For Gen X leaders, I want you to reframe your experiences through a leadership lens. Here's your assessment exercise. I call it the Survivor's Inventory. List 5 challenging situations from your younger years. Not trauma, just challenges you navigated independently. Maybe it was getting yourself to school every day. Maybe it was mediating between divorced parents. Maybe it was stretching the grocery money when your family was broke. For each situation, identify 3 things. What skill did you develop? How do you use that skill in leadership today? What organizational challenge could that skill help solve? I'll give you an example from my own assessment. Learning to navigate different household rules at divorced parents' homes taught me to read environments quickly and adapt my approach. Today, that shows up as cultural intelligence, The ability to work effectively across different organizational cultures, whether I'm dealing with traditional hierarchies or flat startups. This isn't about glamorizing difficult childhoods. It's about recognizing that every challenge you survived added to your leadership toolkit. That figure it out mentality you developed, that's innovation. That ability to entertain yourself, that's creative problem solving. That experience of being unsupervised, that's autonomous leadership. The problem is we've been taught to hide these origins, to pretend we had different experiences. But these experiences are exactly what make us valuable. Stop apologizing for your resilience and start leveraging it. Here's where it gets interesting. The very skills that helped us survive are the ones organizations desperately need right now. Change management. We've been managing constant change since birth. We went from rotary phones to smartphones, from library card catalogs to Google, from handwritten notes to Slack. Change isn't scary, it's Thursday. Crisis leadership, please. We handled crisis before we could drive. We know the difference between urgent and actually urgent. We don't catastrophize because we've seen actual catastrophes and lived to tell about it. Authentic leadership, we had to be authentic because we didn't have energy to be anything else. Pretending takes resources we didn't have, so we learned early to be real, to build genuine connections, to value substance over style. In my high-value leadership intensive, we work on transforming these survival skills into conscious leadership strategies. It's not about leaving your past behind, it's about mining it for the gold that's already there. We explore how your independence becomes visionary leadership, how your adaptability becomes change mastery, how your resilience becomes organizational transformation capability. This isn't therapy, it's strategic leadership development that honors where you came from while preparing you for where you're going. The shift from survivor to thriver isn't about forgetting your past, it's about reframing it. Every Gen X leader sitting in imposter syndrome needs to understand. You're not an imposter. You're a survivor who's earned your seat through trials by fire that would break most people. Your toolkit is different because your training ground was different. While others were in structured activities, you were in the school of real life. While others had safety nets, you were learning to fly without them. This didn't make you damaged, it made you durable. The organizations that win in the next decade will be led by people who can navigate uncertainty without falling apart, who can make decisions without perfect information, who can build something from nothing, who can keep going when the path isn't clear. Sound familiar? This is your superpower, not in spite of your journey, but because of it. The question isn't whether you're qualified to lead, it's whether organizations are smart enough to recognize what you bring. Gen X leaders, it's time to stop hiding your origin story and start owning it. Your resilience isn't a consolation prize, it's a competitive advantage. Your independence isn't a deficit, it's a leadership asset. Your survival skills aren't embarrassing, they're extraordinary. If you're ready to transform your survival skills into leadership superpowers, download my Shield Resilience Strategy Guide. Page 4 specifically covers internal resources and building unshakable confidence, tools that help you recognize and leverage the strengths you've been developing since childhood. The link is below. Drop a comment and tell me what survival skill from your past shows up as leadership strength today. Let's start celebrating these abilities instead of hiding them. For deeper work on transforming your experiences into leadership excellence, grab my book, High Value Leadership, and watch for enrollment in my High Value Leadership Intensive, where we turn survivors into thrivers who transform organizations. Next Tuesday, we're diving into AI Anxiety to AI Advantage, a Gen X leader's playbook. Because if we can figure out DOS commands, we can definitely handle ChatGPT. Until then, remember, you didn't just survive. You developed superpowers. Now it's time to use them. I'm Che Blackmon, and this has been Unlock, Empower, Transform. Go show them what resilient leadership really looks like.